Believe that I basically ignore the rhetoric, but I do, and I'm comfortable with myself. I know I gave it my all for the country. I did the very best I could do as the president, and I'm comfortable with that.
When you look at the current state of the union, because I know, as far as following the country, I know you do. You couldn't be a civil servant your whole life, governor of Texas and two-term president. I mean, you just can't shut it off.
Right. I don't shut it off. I love my country.
You watch. Are you optimistic about America?
Yes,
right
I am.
now?
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always optimistic about America. I've studied a lot of history. We've been through difficult periods in the past, and we'll come through this difficult period. And
so
I'm optimistic about it.
You believe the economy is going to turn around and people are going to be better off?
I can't tell you when. Oh, well, that's a leading question, of course, which you're famous for. But the economy will turn around soon. Well, what's the definition of soon? And frankly, what my advice to you would be to ask somebody who thinks they know what they're talking about the economy. I'm not an economist. I'll tell you this. Okay, I'll give you this. I think it's important for policymakers to understand most new jobs are created by small businesses. 70% of new jobs in America are created by small businesses. Many small businesses pay income tax at the individual rate, and therefore raising any income taxes will cause there to be less capital available for small businesses, which will make it harder to create jobs.
Thank you. That's what the folks, I think, want to hear.
When we come right back from Dayton, Ohio, I will ask the president about the Afghan war, which has descended into semi-chaos. Is any of that his fault? The interview continues after these messages. Continuing now with former President George W. Bush. Shortly after the 9/11 attack in the year 2001, the president decided to invade Afghanistan to remove the Taliban government, which had harbored al-Qaeda. The invasion took place just about 9 years ago, but the war is still dicey.
Afghanistan, now this is a horror over there, okay? It's a horror, because our people are over there. Karzai is corrupt. The thing may go either way. We got a brilliant General Petraeus. And people are going, oh, we have $13 trillion debt, now we're spending $1 trillion in Afghanistan. Are you optimistic about Afghanistan?
It's going to take time, but I think the mission is necessary. And remember, this is the place from which attacks were launched that killed 3,000 of our people.
We know the rationale.
No, I know. No, but there's other rationale, like human rights for women. And the fundamental question for those who say get out is, are we willing to live with the fact that people will live under unspeakable violence?
A lot of Americans are willing to do that.
Well, then I'm not.
But are you optimistic that we can defeat?
Yes. I'm optimistic that democracy will ultimately prevail. Just like I'm optimistic democracy will prevail in Iraq. I'm not optimistic if we leave.
Iran.
Yes.
One of the things that you said in the book, and again, the book is a very honest book. It is.
Thank you.
All right? You said, I felt bad because I left that unresolved problem on the table.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't resolve it, right?
Right. And it's getting worse. Are you optimistic that the United States and the rest of the civilized world can keep those people from getting a nuclear weapon?
Well, in the book, I talked about two clocks. The regime change clock and the slow down the weapons clock.
Right.
And policy has got to be directed toward speeding up one and slowing down the other. And I'm optimistic that countries, as a result of my leadership and the leadership of President Obama, understand the stakes, and that people understand that without attention and without applying pressure, Iran could end up with a bomb.
Why is there
the knowledge to have a bomb? Let's put it that way.
Right. Why is there so much resistance from the rest of the world, excepting Britain, Australia, Canada, to helping in Afghanistan, for example?
In Afghanistan?
All over. In Afghanistan, very hard to get NATO troops in there. Very hard to get commitment in there. And they know like you do, the danger from the Taliban. They know the human rights.
Well, first of all, there are a lot of NATO troops
But
there.
they're not-
The problem
we're
is
carrying
that there's different caveats. In other words, there are some parliaments that sent their troops in with the restriction on fighting. And in the book, I describe my frustrations with that. In other words, we go in initially to liberate the country, along with a lot of other nations. And I thought the footprint was big enough at the time because I felt NATO troops would be able to carry a lot of the weight. But a lot of nations didn't shoot and didn't want to fight, and therefore it required additional U.S. troops during my time as president. And you know, maybe some nations aren't that interested in Afghanistan for the very reason you brought up initially on this question. Is it worth it? Is it necessary? And they're probably asking the same questions you just asked me. And if there's not a consensus that it's worth it to prevent the country from falling into the hands of terrorists and extremists, or is it worth it not to care about what women, a life of a young girl is in Afghanistan? They'll come to the same conclusion that maybe some people you've talked to came to. It's not worth it, and therefore
that's right. But
you're asking the question why? Well, you just answered your own question with the first question.
But I don't understand the mindset. You deal with these leaders one-on-one, and I don't get the mindset of, we're not going to help out the United States and Britain in Afghanistan. We're not going to really put pressure on Iran. You're very generous in your book to China.
But wait a minute, let me finish. There are a lot of nations in Afghanistan, and there were a lot of nations in Iraq. And so I wouldn't be dismissive, but there were a lot.
I know, but
and I wouldn't be dismissive of the contribution
we do
those
the heavy
people
lifting.
made. Of course we do the heavy lifting because we're the heaviest nation. We're a big, powerful nation.
Don't you think it can be spread out a little bit more?
We did spread it out, and I of course, I want to defend the contribution that a country like Slovenia made. It wasn't a huge number of troops, but it was they made a sacrifice.
Poland too.
They did. They were the first.
Poland was big.
Special operators.
If everybody was like Poland, we would have already defeated these people. In your book, you're very generous.
The thing I love about you is you're quite provocative. But go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
Little old General O'Reilly. Go ahead.
You're very generous to China in your book. I'm not so sure about China. They haven't helped with Iran. In fact, they've hurt us with Iran. Okay,
they have different interests. Remember, I put this story in there about Hu Jintao saying, well, I said, what keeps you up at night?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, 25 million new jobs a year. So if that's what keeps you up at night, you're interested in resources necessary to grow your economy.
But surely China and Russia, the two ones who have enabled Iran to take this ridiculous stance, surely they understand the danger that you understand, President Obama understands, that these guys get a nuclear weapon, it can go off anywhere, they just hand a dirty bomb to someone else. They don't care.
There's a lot of different interests in the world. And the job of the president and job of other like-minded people is to continue to focus everybody's attention on the ultimate problem with Iran. But yeah, they care, but they also want to create wealth in their economy, and they want to grow jobs. And that's what makes this issue so difficult, is that there are disparate interests. Not everybody agrees with you or me. And the job of diplomacy is to continue to rally the coalition. I believe any U.S. president must use diplomacy to solve the problem before any other methods are used.
Well, certainly President Obama agrees with you on that. So there's some common ground. Now, I know you don't care about this. But
right, I probably don't. But go ahead.
You're being very patient with me, Mr. President. I appreciate it. Your approval rating is going up. I don't know whether you saw that or not, but the latest polls have your approval rating going up. And the reason is, in my humble opinion, that you're actually talking to the folks. That you spent this week on a number of programs explaining why you did it.
Imagine how high it's going to be after talking with you.
It's going to be through the roof. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Now, you don't care about approval ratings. You made it quite clear a number of times. However, I submitted to you in our last interview, all right, in the White House, that you made a mistake by allowing your enemies in the media, of which there are thousands, to define your administration. You didn't fight back. And Obama's getting the same criticism now from the far left, okay, that you let them run wild, accusing you of lying to go into Iraq, accusing you of all kinds of heinous crimes. They were accusing you of being a criminal, okay? They were doing. But you didn't, you said, look, I'm not president, I'm going to lower myself. But I think Americans
let me stop you there, please.
Okay.
I didn't say I'm the president, I don't want to lower myself. I said, I don't want to lower the office of the presidency.
Fine.
And I don't think it does any good then nor now to engage in throwing spitballs at people who wanted to kind of coarsen the dialogue. I feel very strong, and I would do it the same way. I know what
Really?
people, yeah,
Because
I know what but Bill, what fundamentally matters is for a president, can you look back and say, one, did you stick to your principles, and two, did you strengthen the office? See, the great thing about America is the office of the president is much more important than the occupant. That's what provides stability for our country. And I felt it would weaken the presidency, not me, weaken the presidency to engage in all this name calling. And
I didn't want you to do
comfortable
that.
with that decision.
I wanted you to do what you did in your book.